Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. I've played contact sports my whole life. I feel like most people have, well, I said that, but I feel like most people have. Like a pickup game of basketball, recreational purposes, not like competitively. But if you do play competitively, you're most likely to have an injury of some sort during your career. Like I've played for like 16 years and I've had a ton of injuries. A common injury I had in high school was concussion. Concussions suck. I played water polo and football. I played football freshman year, but I was really bad. And I got hit a lot. I was basically like, what is it? Like a tackling dummy. I was skinny, little. I played scout team running back. Got drilled. I got my first concussion freshman year. It sucked. And then I stopped playing football because it sucked. And then I started playing water polo the year after. Water polo, like you don't really wear a helmet or anything, and I played something called set D. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And I also got a concussion there because you play behind the man, and he usually throws his head back to separate space. I've been headbutted like a million times. Besides that, concussions suck. So when we talk to you about concussions. Most people are not educated enough on injury, especially those in a position of responsibility. Like for a football coach, most football coaches want to win, and most athletes want to win, and they may not know they have a concussion, and they want to go back on the field. Terrible idea. Before playing a sport such as football, people should educate themselves on the concussion because it could save your life. It's becoming exceptionally dangerous to young athletes, especially in Pop-Warner football leagues. CDC reports that concussions have doubled in the last 10 years. The American Academy of Pediatrics has reported emergency room visits for concussions in kids aged 8 to 13 years old has doubled, and concussions have risen 200% among teens ages 14 to 19. One of the best ways to prevent or reduce the risk of concussion is learn how to play the sport correctly. Like in football, it helps to have a helmet that fits. If you don't have a helmet that fits and you get hit, you're gonna get a concussion. If you tackle with your head down, I can't really show you, you're gonna get a concussion. One of my favorite football players, his name is Mike Alslot. I don't know if you know him. He's called the A-Train. He played for the Buccaneers. He had to retire early because he would run people over. He was a fullback running back, but he would duck with his head down, and he got hit so many times in the head he had to retire like 5 or 6 years early. It was pretty sad. He cried. The risk of playing football or contact sport is you're gonna have a concussion. You can't completely prevent having a concussion, but you could reduce the risk by playing the sport right, having good coaches. When I was younger, I went to a football camp, and the coach was Troy Thomas, and he said you should play flag football as a younger player because most Pop Warner coaches, they do not teach you how to tackle correctly, so you have bad habits coming into high school. So you're going to injure yourself, but flag football is just pull the flag, not really tackling. The symptoms of a concussion, if you may think you have one, is a headache, temporary loss of consciousness, confusion or feeling as if in fog, amnesia, dizziness, seeing stars, and ringing the ears. I have a twin brother, and his senior year, he was playing against De La Salle. They're really good, very big men. And he played linebacker, and their running back, I forgot his name, but he was a monster, ran him over. And he told me that he got hit so hard he woke up a minute later confused to where he was. People were standing over him, he had no idea where he was. He got rocked. It's no joke. The most serious complication to concussion is second impact syndrome. So if a player returns, because most coaches want to win, and if your best player gets hurt, he probably wants to play again, wants to go out on the field. Second impact syndrome is it's dealt after another significant blow to the head, and it causes fatal swelling to the brain. There are many other complications that lead to difficulty farther down the road. Recurrent brain injury can lead to personality disorders and mental illness later in life. Like Junior Seau, you remember him? Good football player. Went nuts. CTE is it's like after like a while, like if you had a lot of concussions, you could develop CTE. Dr. Ben Amalu, a forensic pathologist and neuropathologist, yeah, that's why I need my notes, I wouldn't have known that. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, said chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, is it's a disorder you get after you get too many concussions. It used to be called dementia pugilistica. It's punch drunk, like for boxers. Is usually found in those with a history of boxing. It can affect high school players who played for just a few years. If these are not enough reasons to educate yourself or others about the impact of a concussion in an athletic competition, I don't know what is. Concussion should be taken very seriously, and ignorance is the only way to raise the risk of seriously hurting yourself or others. So please be wary of what you're signing yourself or loved ones up for. Thank you. I'm gonna be shit on now.
Fair enough.
So when you were 7 years old, you cried right after?
Yeah.
Amazing. Did you see that guy? Only killed himself.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Couldn't mention that.
Good football player.
No, good football. I think he started down. I think what's the girl out?
The greatest striker of all time.
That was pretty long. Betting games.
Marlene, you're not here, right? Thank you. Just double checking. All right, Dallas. Obviously, you had a little trouble getting started, and then you had to dump to your notes, which is, let's face it, it's better to be able to get up and give the speech than not to be able to do it at all. So I'm okay with your having to do that. It's not the best option. But once you had the notes, you still seemed like you were a little underprepared. You needed to be rehearsed more. You needed to know exactly where you were going. This should be second nature to you by the time you're getting this presentation. There's also not, as we've been talking about, a preview in the presentation, and I think a little structure is in order here. The development is not particularly problematic, though. I think that you kind of outline kind of a personal view on this. You're talking about what the dangers of concussions are, and I think that needs to be developed a little bit more. Later in the speech, you make reference to people who have had particularly significant problems, and you mentioned Junior Seau, not only the greatest Charger, but one of the great Trojans of all time, 55, there you go. We weren't going to forget that. And it's tragic, and that there have been a number of players who have run into these kinds of problems. There's your chance to get some emotional connection going with what you're talking about. The personal experience is good because that helps your ethos. Here's why you're talking about it, and you can talk from firsthand experience about having a concussion. That kind of thing is useful. But if you want to pull us in, tell us those stories about people who were successful, who still got concussions and had all kinds of problems as a consequence, and then explain to us why those sorts of things happen. Is it inherent in the game, or is it something that could be prevented by better preparation and education, better equipment. That seems to be the implication that you're giving, that we could minimize this if we were doing a better job at it. And I think you need to build a stronger argument that suggests and proves that we're not well prepared. You make a lot of assertions about how kids are trained to play football. They learn bad habits in Pop Warner. I'm going, well, that's your say-so. I don't know why that's true. Is there an expert who believes that this is true? Somebody who's looked at this and has examined a bunch of cases? I don't hear any information that's being cited like that. So it's your assumption, and I don't know what makes you an expert in order to be able to reach that conclusion. You sound like the coaches don't know anything, and the solution is to have the coaches that are properly trained so that they know how to teach the kids. Okay, so how do we teach the coaches? How do we make sure that they know these kinds of things? That's your solution to the problem. So, how do we get that to happen? What is it that they need to learn? You mentioned a couple times this attitude that they always want to win. They always want to take your best player. You don't want to take your best player off the field. I know that in the professional level, they're very careful about these kinds of things now. Is your argument that they're not being applying the same degree of care for Pop Warner high school, college students, that sort of thing? Are they taking risks with those folks? And that's going to mean that the problem's going to be persistent, or it's going to affect those people who, the vast majority of players never become pros at the sports that they're playing. It's like a teeny tiny fraction of the football playing population that plays after college. It's a minuscule amount compared to the total number who played in high school and in college. But those are the ones that I think you want to be talking about. This is not just what's happening in the NFL. We're talking about what's going to be happening to kids that you have, or some of you people in this classroom, for instance, who might be playing now. That they have to watch out for these kinds of things and what's going on. And I think you need to kind of get into that emotionally a little bit more, and then also show us, so how could we stop this? A football player can't change, the helmet design that they've got. If they're issued a helmet that doesn't fit them, how do they address that issue? What do they do about that kind of thing? Is there an equipment person who's supposed to be responsible for those things, or do schools not have that kind of stuff? Are they not prepared to do those sorts of things? Those are the arguments that you're making, and I think you need some proof on those particular points. The notes on the podium are bad enough, but the hands and the body leaning on the podium are really not good. That just looks, it makes you look like you are suffering from a concussion and you need the podium to continue to be able to stand. And that's not really the situation that you want to be in. All right.
Thank you.